That's my understanding.
Okay. Well, that's good. Good to know. Good to know. You're good with that stuff. Okay.
Rob, I'm just organizing. What picture are you doing?
I'm going to start off with this 380. That's the one with the 4 trees in it. 5 trees, okay. A bunch of trees.
Rob, what days of the week did you send the pictures?
Oh.
When? Around when?
I think it was Sunday.
It was the 14th. It was the 14th, but other people have replied, so now I think it has 3 other names. I think Ethel and
I think I need to send a individual instead of responding. But the thing is I like to respond to the last week. That way I don't put all these other people that aren't taking the class and getting all this information.
yeah, and now on my email it now starts Robert, Daniel, Alice, and Ethel.
Yeah, it says June 14th at 8:34 p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I have.
I don't think I got it.
Well,
You're on there, Mitsuko. You're on there.
I'm on there. Okay.
Yeah.
I can forward this to you if you like.
Yeah, if you could.
depending how many emails you get a day, it's like 100 emails ago for me now.
Yeah. Or check your spam or something.
14th is Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes, at 8:34 p.m.
Mitsuko, it's
Yes.
sent from Robert. It's Robert in the two entry. Robert, Daniel, Alice, ETH. It's not from Rob Sherrill.
I see.
That's the confusing part.
I just sent it to you. I just sent it to you again.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
I hope that helps. If you go under Plein Air Wednesday, it's the one that says Plein Air Wednesday. And it has like 14 emails on it.
Yeah, the challenge is it's not sent from you, Rob. It's got everybody's name in that entry.
So, do I have to do this individually here?
Shelley, I think that happens when people start replying.
Yes, and then Rob's sending the new one based on all those replies, and it's got added all those people's names, so it's not from Rob.
I think guys, when I had this problem last week or 2 weeks ago, and what I started doing is as soon as I get the email with the pictures from Rob, I automatically forward them to me. And that way it's separated and I have it, you know what I mean?
That's a good idea. But the one that you, Rob, the one that you just forwarded to me.
Yeah.
It says it has a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it says the first one says, my goodness, who are the little people? Alice. Is that the one? Oh, is this the one? Like a 4 pictures?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, might be this one. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll do it.
Okay, yes, I got it.
From now on, what I'll do is I'll just cut and paste. I'll start a whole new email and not respond to the last email because I think that creates confusion. All right, that's a good thing.
Rob?
Yep.
Sorry, I don't have it either.
Oh gosh.
Who is this?
The class, Vendy.
Vendy. Oh, hi, Vendy. Okay.
Hey.
Let's see. I'm going to forward this to you right now. And okay, Elman, there you go. And
Thank you.
and that's on its way.
All right.
Okay. And it's a part of a big chain. You know, you'll get it's an email with like 15 emails in it. And then
That's okay. I can handle it.
I know you can. Okay.
Okay, good.
All right, everybody. So I've got myself, let's see. Oh boy. Huh. I'm not seeing me up on this screen here. Can you guys see my hand?
Yes,
Yes.
I can't.
That's weird, 'cause I can't see it up here.
Which one are you starting with? I'm sorry.
The first one.
380.
Thank
The
you.
trees, yeah.
Oh, pretty.
Record, Rob.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. Hold on. Yeah, not that one. I want hold on.
And everybody should mute.
Yeah, I'll mute everybody here.
Oh, okay.
Rob, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, when you mute everybody, can I unmute myself and still
Yes.
talk? Oh, okay. Just a question. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. That's weird. You guys can see my hand. I can't see my hand in the that's really strange. Well, just you guys let me know if anything goes wrong. I can't see my hand up on the screen, which is very strange, which means I don't know what I'm taking a picture of. Great. That is weird.
You have to,
I saw it earlier. I see it here on my camera. It's oh. You see it there. Whatever. I'm going to put this on gallery here so I can see your faces. Rob, I think you have two screens open and you're looking at the wrong one. Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is. Okay, I got it. I got it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I don't know what's going on. Okay, these are small. Now I can crop in on it and I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Because I'm going to do this one kind of small. You know, I'm going to do this a little larger so you can see it though. But, you know, most of the time I would work about, like, let's say this big to do a thumbnail sketch, which is, you know, there's my thumb, okay? So I'm going to do a little larger so you guys can see it, okay? I'm going to make mine like this. I'm just joking. Nothing like a little 944 humor, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna do mine about this large. Anyway, these are still supposed to be pretty small, but
Oh, record, Rob.
thank
Record.
you. Thank you. I do this every day. I can't. Okay. Toward to the cloud. Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys are great. Okay. Now, you know, note where the center is. That's a good thing to know. You might want to put your rules of thirds down there, just so you know where things are. It helps. It all helps. And I don't want to put my horizon line dead center, but I do want it pretty close because I want some land out of this. The problem with this one is I like the land and the clouds. How do I get both? We could go vertical with it, but I like the horizontal. So I'm gonna put my land, my horizon about here. It's a little below center. I think we're fine. And I'm gonna throw some little mountains and things up along the horizon too. And there are many different mountain ranges back there, so you could almost do anything you want. They go on and on and on. So, little pieces of background mountains. There's that big foreground hill. And then these beautiful, I don't know what kind of trees. The universe? I don't know. I should know. I'm gonna go with juniper. Maybe they're cypress, I don't know.
Or maybe cottonwood,
Really?
maybe? I don't know.
I don't either. Okay, so let's just gonna throw those in. Certainly don't have to be perfect about these. We're just mainly looking for placement, but yeah, something like that. You know, it's like, if here's the center, right? I'm kind of keeping them over to the left. And then we have this neat bush here. We could just, at this point, just kind of lump it in. All we're looking for is kind of a dark mass there. We have another dark mass coming right out. We'll slow down. I don't always put this much detail into a small paint picture, but I did want to see the light between the trees, so that was interesting. We do have some other dark stuff down here. Behind. Okay. And there's a couple of neat looking cypresses, or maybe they're junipers, I don't know. Way back here. Maybe you want to pull them all the way over the background there. A few of them. Just, I don't want to stop it right at the edge. I know the photograph it stops right at the edge of this hill in the background. That's not usually a good idea. Overlapping is a better idea. Really dark up in the foreground, really, really dark. Maybe not so dark in the background. Now, if you go over to the picture, let's see, the name of it is 347. It's the last one. Can you see how the cloud patterns make that sort of letter C in the sky? Kind of start over here, move over. We could even take them over further. We start it way over here. You can literally do so many things with these. Like that, and maybe over here in all this blue sky, you have a couple of little guys. Whatever. Like that. Okay. We did talk about putting a little water. I wouldn't mind if you look at the water in this picture with the sea, the sea pattern of the clouds. We could put a little strip. So maybe down in here, we'll just include a little strip of water in there. Maybe back there. That'll make more sense because this is such a small comp. It'll make a lot more sense in the finish. We're just noting we want it like a water. Cool. And you know, I kind of also liked the land in the first one, but I do like some of these foreground sort of bushes in the. It can make. It's nice to see a little foreground in there. Maybe we could have some of those foreground bushes with some of the little. We have those around here too. I don't know what they're called. Shrubby things. You see all over. But you get out in the sticks a little bit. And then Any sort of foreground shrubs you want. Just kind of make them like that. What it could, there's not really an opening through here, but often what I like to do is, when I'm like got really crowded foreground shrubbery right up in here, what I'll do is I'll just open it up a little bit and give myself sort of a little passageway through here. Just kind of opens it up. It's not so clustered. Might even want to include maybe there's like a little passageway through there. And I might even in my comp, I might even put a little passageway in here. If you'll notice, I have a light cloud up in this corner over here, directing the eye in. What I could do is close off this corner over here to direct the eye in, and I'm noticing there's some blue sky in there. Why don't we just include that? So we have a light corner over here and a dark corner over here. Try not to make them the same size. It'd be really easy to do. You'll want to. I don't know why the brain wants to do that, but so try not to make them the same size. So already we've got light and dark patterns. This piece is just full of pattern. So here's how we do it. Let's start off at the top, and that's a pretty dark blue sky up there. So I'm going to just start my sky up. And this is really a lot more than a thumbnail. I think this is more of a rough. Actually, it's just turning into that. So maybe we'll skip the rough stage today. Oh, I have something I want to do. Okay, we'll do this instead. We're going to do a color rough next, which I think is the better way to go. We didn't do it last week. We'll do that next. Okay. All right, and it gets lighter as it gets toward. Now that's a very dark. I don't know why the camera registered that so dark. And if you look at the other skies, they're very light. So as long as your sky starts from darker and gets lighter as it gets toward the horizon, you're fine. You want the sky darker than the clouds. Okay. And then one of the things that's really making this thing beautiful, and I'm going back to 380 here, is these dramatic shadows, the dramatic cloud shadows. They do it every time. So there's this dark, this soft edge, dark shadow on the ground. And in this piece, the whole foreground is in shadow. But I don't want to do that. I like little strips of light. So I'm going to maybe put a little strip of light through here. And maybe our little foreground bushes are in light. Catching a little light here, possibly. And then what they do is those foreground bushes that we put in, they get a little dark toward the bottom. They gradate up towards something a little bit lighter at the top there. So they don't really pop as much as I wanted. I think what I'm going to do is just put a little tone right over this to really pop my foreground bushes here. I may have to put this whole foreground in. Yeah, I just wanted this a little lighter. You see, this is getting kind of cluttered, a little cluttered too. So what I'm looking for here is a bush area little darker at the bottom. Here we go. Sometimes you just need to clear it up. You know, I think maybe I like that little strip of light in there in the front, but I don't know if it's working. I think maybe these bushes being light here in the foreground might be the better deal. You know, you try to make a plan, you see if it works, it doesn't. I think that's enough light in the foreground, these bushes in the foreground. We'll see. And I'm inventing this as I go. I mean, a lot of artists, most artists will do they'll do the whole painting, or they base their whole demo on a painting, like you've seen me do like with the yellow one. When I'm inventing it right in front of you, I think it's a good lesson, because I don't even know exactly what I'm doing, but it shows you the process. Okay, and we do have light bottoms to these. Now remember, the light is coming from the top right-hand side. So the bottoms will be, and our cloud will be horizontal, but on the right-hand side, you want to leave it a little bit light, and on the top of your cloud, you might want to leave it a little bit bright. Just giving them bottoms. Every cloud, when you're looking at it in this perspective, I don't know if you can see, there's a cloud right in the middle, right above the trees, right in the middle. It's kind of, it looks like this, boom, 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 and it kind of goes like this. Wow, there's only like 20,000 clouds up there. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. If you draw it like that, that's fine. Oh, I'm sorry, let me move that over. Okay. It's right above, see where I'm pointing? This little tree in the photograph, it's right above this tree right there. You look in the photograph, it's right above the tree. Anyway, all that matters is that the light's coming from here. What we're gonna have is, this cloud has a side to it like this, and that's in shadow, okay? And then the bottom of it is in shadow too. And that's what you need to realize. The lightest part, the highlight, will be right on the top, facing the light. The highlight will be up in here somewhere. And then it'll gradually get, as it turns down into shadow, it'll gradually get darker. So highlight, middle tone, and then shadow. That's how clouds work. The thing is that very much like a tree, they have such a fuzzy edge that it's kind of hard to follow it sometimes until you realize this is what's going on. Might be a little difficult to follow. So as I put these in, I'm putting in the bottoms. You might want to look at the 362. Is that what it is? No, 347. That's the one I'm doing here.
Rob, could you move your paper back?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Whoops. Thank you.
Sure.
Just give little bottoms to the clouds. And that's good enough for a rough. Even this might have a little bit of bottom. If you notice, the bottom of your cloud really isn't quite as dark as the sky is, so it just needs to be lighter. That's what makes it feel like a white cloud is a very light shadow. Now, if they're holding a lot of rain, sometimes they have a very dark bottom to the cloud, so. And it just depends. And then what's happening in the background, let's go back to 380 again. All of those strips of light, little strips of light back here, creating And we have some on the hills, little strips of light. And some of the mountains in the background are dark. Go ahead and put them in dark. And they're not as dark as the foreground, but they're dark. And you can almost invent your own little spotlights on there.
You know, Rob, when you're talking about the horizon line,
Yeah.
are you talking about where the sky
Yeah.
meets the mountains or where the land meets the base of the mountain?
You can't really see the horizon line actually in here. You just kind of have to, what I do is I just sort of, I know it's behind those mountains somewhere. And if you go to the skinniest point, like right in the center of the picture 380, it's behind them, these little mountains in the background. So you actually can't see it because there's other mountains way off in the foreground that are covering it. You can see that the clouds overlap each other and keep overlapping each other until they get down to that horizon where it just starts to lose itself. And the land does the same thing. There's big openings and then smaller openings and smaller openings until you get to the horizon. So you can pretty well guess that the horizon is right through those background blue-gray mountains. And then you have these other hills in the foreground. Yeah. When you're in nature, things aren't obvious. You have to do a lot of jazz improvisation, you know? So is what I like. Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. Now, now that we have our little structural thing here, I'm just gonna here. I'm going to draw another one right above it. Same size. Now, with this one, I don't want you to put in any tones. I just want lines because we're going to paint it. And the key to doing a nice color rough is to give yourself lots of big open spaces. So I'll show you how I do that. So for the cloud work, ooh, that might be a little too much, huh? Something like that. Okay. We'll say the land is around here. Mountains. We're not really caring whether everything's absolutely perfect, but we do. Like, I'm not going to put every little mountain back there. For these three trees, or these trees off to the side here, I think I might just reference about where they are. And then I just sort of reference where other things are. Can you see this? Let me really crop in if I can. Will it go in any further? Yeah. And then we have these light bushes up into the foreground. And that's about all I draw. Maybe I'll put in this other cloud over here. I forgot this one. Something like that. Just keep it simple. Simple's always better. I'm gonna put just a little line here telling myself there's a sort of a mass of land in front of a mass of land back there. Hopefully this will really give us direction. Okay, gonna use ultramarine blue here in their sky. I'm using that big brush that I do the whole thing with. It's just one brush. Calligraphy brush. These things, I can do everything with it because of the tip. Got the tip and the big bladder in it. I'm telling you, these things are really good for comps. Why is that? Because I like something with a big bladder and a nice thin tip so I don't have to keep dipping it back into the paint all the time. All right, so I might need to put something a little touch darker at the top there. I'm gonna bring that over here. Now it's a color rough, so these things don't have to be flawless or anything. You're just looking for big basics. And since we're doing that, because we have the color on our brush, I'm gonna go over to that picture number 347, and notice that we have that water down there. So I'm just using the sky color. It's in my brush. And I'm gonna put a little bit of water in the background, just telling myself, yeah, I want water back there. Yeah. And so the water reflects the sky. If you look at it, wow, I mean, I'm seeing these little cloud things happening in the water. I mean, at this scale, I don't think it's really necessary, but maybe we'll take some of those little, if you look at them, they're very vertical, these very fuzzy reflections of the clouds in there. That's amazing. And then if you take the slightest touch of orange into your blue, that should gray it. Because orange and blue are complementary colors. Okay, and we're just going to give our little clouds here some bottoms. See how light I make that? You certainly don't have to be perfect or anything. You're just looking for bottoms to your clouds. This gives you a plan. And if you don't always know, and sometimes it's fun to fly by the seat of your pants, and sometimes you just don't have time. You have to go. But if you can give yourself a little plan, I've told, sometimes when I was under really big pressure and doing commercial art, I'd have to do something really, really quick. And sometimes I'd have to fly by the seat of my pants, but if I could, I would give myself a little 5-minute plan first. And I'm telling you, it would save me so much anguish. Okay. And we have there's some pretty dark blue-gray mountains in the background. So it's a little blue. I'm gonna gray that. Little touch of orange in that. Just looking for a kind of a mountain range back there. You could put little strips of light on there if you feel like it. But I'll leave a little strip of light on that one. It could happen. So see how I'm just bouncing back from 380 to the 47. Now I'm on this hill over here. I like those. It's much browner. I'm gonna add a little bit more red. I'm sorry. I'm adding more orange to my blue, excuse me. And that should give me a brown. A little darker too. Little strips of light here. You could do kind of wanting to leave that there. I think I'll leave it there for now. And then we have an interesting shadow going right behind our trees and the bushes in the foreground. So we have the water already. I want to put a little strip of shadow in there. I would add just the slightest touch of yellow to your blue. You know, your blue is already grayed with a little bit of orange probably, because you don't want a pure green. There is really just not, this is a very gray painting. We certainly could pop some color if we wanted to, but I'm coming up with this beautiful green gray, which is a bit darker than that water we had in the background. There we go. We don't want it too dark though, because we have these dark things to put over it. Anyway, this is the strip of shadow behind our hill and our little bushes and things in the foreground. And I'm just going to paint it right over them. You know, I wanted some neat strips of light up here in the foreground, but it just didn't seem to be working in our little comp. So I'm going to keep that shadow and bring it right up into the foreground here, right up to my little bushes. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more yellow and orange to that green, because I want it to feel like it's a little more saturation in that green will make it feel like it's more coming forward. And I want to just really pop a yellow in there in the foreground. That makes it come forward. You see how complex these things get, even on a small scale. You may find these little guys look really good. I tell you, I've taken some of these little things and just mounted them on the front of a piece of watercolor paper, and given it to people for cards. They're really great, the best cards you can get. Okay. Let's see. And we had our little shrubs here in the foreground, and I have the yellow on my. And I remember they were kind of a yellowy green, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit myself some yellow in there first. Yellowy green, maybe a touch of green in there. And if they're too much, then I'll take them down. Just going to leave them like that. And now take your Prussian blue. We're going to make some darks now for those trees and everything. So some Prussian blue. Let me try this. Oh, this is great. Let's see. Prussian blue and orange. Just make you know, your cad red, your cad yellow, make an orange. Then we can just throw those in there. No sense in really fluffing them out too much. Got some other little trees at the base there. Another one there. We put in a couple more of those little. Exactly. Something like that. And there's all kinds of little things that can happen back here. But you just notice that things, as we got back further, things got bluer and grayer. Yeah, so I'm not sure what that big of a strip of water in there. And I think I might even thin down this land a little bit. I'm gonna maybe thin that down and then maybe that gives me more place to put water and land in the background. I like those little tree lines back there. Maybe we could play with that. You never know whether the water could just like come back up to it and give us some little tree lines. I don't know. So I'm thinking about possibly taking this line down or maybe down to here or so. I don't know. We have a plan. And some people really, they'll work out every little problem. Every little problem. They'll do 20 of these. And that's usually when you're in commercial art and you're doing this big, big project that requires a whole lot of people working on it and a lot of money. Okay, I've got my plan over here. Put that up over there.
Rob, could you show us your plan one more time?
Now that I finally put it up on my easel where I can see it, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There it is. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Now, let me shoot this thing out. No problem. And when I'm doing these things, you know, take liberties on your own. I certainly don't mind if you guys, you know, I mean, I would use my artwork as a guide, but it's not necessary to always copy it literally. It's okay though. You know, I can see how that would help, but I think you know, don't be afraid to take liberties. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so again, just going to start off with that horizon line, just letting myself, well, where is the middle of my piece? You know, that's what I want to know. And then well, actually, these trees give quite a bit of scale to everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and just give myself a few vertical lines telling me about where things are. Am I drawing this dark enough? We could probably go a little darker, huh? And have that other one here. That gives me a lot of scale right there. We have those sort of yellowy ones up in the foreground. And I draw this very much like I do the one for the watercolor, for the little watercolor rough there, because I still want to give myself big areas big areas for, just let the watercolor move around. You get too detailed with the drawing. The watercolor has a, gets too clinical, you know, you have to put it in the, we should have big areas so our watercolor can just move around. So I don't really clutter it up with too much drawing. All right. Then we have this hill. I'm not going down. This hillside coming up. Sort of goes up on the other side too a little bit. Like that. This line here is just a reference. It's telling me where this foreground land starts. So I kind of cut that down a little bit more. Those are just preferences. Now I'm going to go to that 47. And I don't want the whole thing in here being water. Because I did like some of those little little tree lines back there. So I'm just going to say my water will start around here. And it goes back into the way back, maybe off the page. And I have a little island out there. That's pretty neat. Give it a nice flat bottom, this island, because it's water. I'm going to draw on that flatter. And there's another island out there or whatever. We could make all this water if we wanted to. I kind of wanted to have a few little references to those trees. We'll just have like a strip of water in there. And some overlapping mountains. I think, gosh, you could go 3 or 4 deep with those overlapping mountains. And they just do all kinds of things. And I want to take these, I just want to make sure that these trees are clearly over my background. Make them nice and clearly over. You know, sometimes when you take the photograph, it's just not that way. So you have to take your own liberties, you know. There's a couple of little sticky things up here in the foreground. Just let myself know. Now, well, one thing I did on accident here, if you'll know, and this is a human thing. You notice I put 2 bushes almost exactly the same distance away from the page here, in here, and almost the same distance there. That's not usually a good thing. So, and I do it all the time, and you will too. Everybody does. I don't care. I know the best. Some of the, especially draftsmen. It's the draftsmen that really know. We all do it. And so part of it is looking at it, critiquing your work and saying, oh, okay, oh yeah. Okay, so to break this up, I'll add a little bit more over here. Maybe I'll add a little bit more over here. And that just kind of breaks it all up. Now I have more on this side and more little gaps. I have a gap here and a little gap here. To let a little light in through. And I look for the equals. I'm always looking for little equals. That's why I put 5 here. I wanted to put 4 and it just wasn't working. I mean, my brain wanted to put 4. I have no idea what that's all about. But some psychologists say it's because we're like symmetrical beings, you know? Like the same on both sides. I don't know. I don't even want to go there. Okay, so starting out my little cloud pattern. It's sort of in that letter C, and you can use the reference here as your guide. But there's lots and lots of room for you to make things up. So feel free. You could do so many different things with these clouds. But in the Edgar Payne Bible of light landscape painting, if you can see what we're doing here? We've got this steelyard thing going here, right? We've got these long straights here, stabilizing, and these darks out here balancing. You know, I was even gonna put those little, remember I had in the sketch, I forgot to put in those little guys. See, I do it naturally now. A couple of little guys over here. Possibly. See how that balances? You have the big mass being balanced out by the smaller mass. Now, could you do it without having any of these systems I'm saying? No. Of course you can. You can do whatever you want. But if you know these systems, you can look at it and choose, you know what, I'm going to try doing it without this time and see if I can get it to work. And then I'll put it in there if it needs to work. You know, what I'm trying to show you is that these frameworks have been around for, oh my gosh, hundreds and hundreds of years. I always think of Claude Lorraine, the great landscape painter of the Baroque times. And they say he had a lot to do with inventing a lot of these systems, but you know, these systems happen over who knows. You could probably go back to Greco-Roman times and find some of those murals. Occasionally they'll come across a mural and you'll see a landscape in there and you're going, oh my gosh, this is thousands of years old. You could probably go back to Chinese painting and find it done for 4,000 years. Same system. Who knows? Okay, so I've got my little, now I remember what I said earlier. I wouldn't want this light cloud on this dark sky to be the same basic shape as this dark cloud on the light sky here, or on the light, I'm sorry, this dark cloud. Did I just say that? The dark sky behind the light cloud. In other words, these two shapes being the same. And I think they're very similar here. So I'm going to do things to break that up. You see how I do it wrong, just to show you how to do it right. As if there's a wrong and a right, right? No, but you will find tendencies like that. And then if you have equals in a piece, I have to say they become irritating. They just do. So I look for things. And that's what all of these systems are all about, keeping it less irritating. You know, even the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds breaks it up so you don't have all these equals in it. So it's not so irritating. And you might have a couple little floaters. See, always around the big clouds, you see the little floaters? They're all by themselves, little guys. They're always around the clouds, always. If you paint clouds without the floaters around them, it'll look really desolate. You might want that. All right, we got a plan now. Plan of action. And you know what's really cool is that we've already done our that little comp. You know, this little comp right here tells you most of what you need to know. I'm not sure I like all these colors, but we'll juice it up a little bit. It's got a lot of red. It's got a lot of blue and yellow, and I think it needs some red. No problem. I have to say, I do have one advantage because I'm critiquing people's work all day long, and even more now. It does give me, I do look at my own work, and I've always been critical, but doing all the critiques really helps. You know, one thing you can do is just look at masterpieces. Don't be afraid to look at a masterpiece and critique it. As if you have the nerve. No. Look at a Sargent. Look at a Van Gogh. Look at a Michelangelo. Look at them and say, you know, they're great, but maybe I would have tried this.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I critique everything. I remember when I was younger, I was a lot more, is the word audacious? I don't know. I was just, anyway, I would say things like, I don't think Michelangelo did it right. I didn't know as much then.
Many times you can find tangents.
Yeah. But is he doing, I mean, is he getting away with it? It's weird. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. You know, how about on this big sky? We could lay down some water first. Why not? Let's lay down some water first. These lines that I put down for the clouds they're not cut in stone or anything, you know, they're just guides. I'm laying down not a whole lot of water. It's kind of dampening this. I don't know if you can see on my drawing, but I brought this little gap right here in on my sky. I brought it in almost the same place I brought this one in. So I want to do something about that. As I work this, I want them not to be right up and over each other. All right, let's just dampen that. And then take some, I'm going to take some ultramarine blue or any blue you like. You could use cobalt if you like. It's really kind of up to you. The color of the sky in the photograph is, you know, they use cyan in print so much. So cyan will tend to green and it's really not always the best sky color. I just choose my own. It's pretty dark up there. If you have a really hard edge, you could just take your brush, maybe another brush, and just soften that edge with some water. I'll do the same thing here. Soften the edge. I'm just going to bring this down. Got a really hard edge there. Just using water around the edge.
Rob, is that still Prussian blue and water first? Is that what that is, that blue or something else?
I'm using ultramarine.
Ultramarine, okay.
Well, Prussian blue will work though, but it'll look like the sky in the photograph, which is a very greenish blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. That'll work. It's one thing you need to know, that there's just so many ways to solve these issues. Okay, and then just add water. You know what you can do toward the horizon. What happens is that you get dust in the air. Now, over in this place, there is literally, it's so clear over there, it's unbelievable. It's the clearest you've ever seen. Just, I don't think Alaska is clearer than this. Maybe it is, but it is so clear. So, but you still get dust in the air, it doesn't matter. And so toward the horizon, you might get some, you take a little orange and mix it in with your blue, you can get a little bit of dust in the air like that. Maybe down here a touch. See how I make this really, really thin and extremely horizontal as I get down toward the horizon. It's a little more orange. You could definitely take a little bit of magenta in your sky if you like and just move it around. And what that does, just wakes the color up again, gives it a little bit of a lift. If you notice, I'm not I'm not doing this perfect gradation in my color here. I'm gonna get all these bloomy effects. And that's just my style. You know, I like to show off what the mediums do, not cover it up. It's a choice. I'm just gonna kind of feather this back in my other colors. Let me see. You see on that? Okay. I guess I could. I'm adding more water to it just to feather this down into it, but what's happening, I'm going to get a little bloom effect in there. That really irritates a lot of artists. For me, I love that kind of thing. So it's the abstraction that really attracts me. So I've got a little darker up there too. Oh, that's great. It's just going to get better too. So I have this blue, but there's a lot of color in the blue. You should know that. Let your eye be sensitive to that. Every time you have a color, there's just little variations on it. Almost every color does that. Okay, now make yourself like a gray for the clouds. I'm just taking, really, red, yellow, and blue will give you any kind of gray you want. You just mix red, yellow, and blue together. Any red, yellow, and blue, but let's say ultramarine blue, cad yellow, and cad red. That'll give you a nice gray. And then, which way do you want to push it? Mine's kind of getting out to be a more orangey gray, and I want it to be a little bit, well, that could really work actually, because it distinguishes itself from the blue sky a little bit more. I think I'll go with it. I'm going to give it a try. It's a commitment. Okay, so again, I'm going to lay a little water down where I want my bottom of the cloud to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and just, I put quite a bit browner. That's a little brown. I think I need to add a little more blue to it. I had a feeling with that. That's cooler. All right. More water around that. Yeah. Then what happens is that you get another cloud behind this cloud. And it's got its own bottom to it. So you get a little gap in between. But it's not as clinical as I'm making it. I'm just kind of throwing it in there like this. Very hard edged. And then beauty of watercolor. Just add water along the edge. See? And the water does all the work. It makes it wonderful. And you did too, because you chose to guide it. You don't have to force everything in painting. You don't, in other words, you don't have to be the sole controller. That's one thing I learned when I was an art director. You can be kind of the leader and the idea person, and just sort of, that's the way I think of watercolor as a medium. I know I give it direction and then I let it do its thing. That is exactly the way I used to art direct my people. And I used to get the best results. They were grateful too. They were just like, oh, I've never had so much. Usually I have these micromanagers telling me every little thing to do. And I'd be like, no, I hired you because you look like you can make good choices. And I don't have to tell you everything to do. I do the same thing with water. I just trust the watercolor knows what to do. And I guide it. The other thing is I'm not completely dictated by the photo. I will take liberties, and like sometimes I think these clouds get just way too complex. So I decomplexify them. Maybe not the best choice in words. So I let things like, my overlaps they're really far apart up here, and then they get thinner, and then they get thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner as you get toward the horizon. You get just little strips here, little strips. And the light might come over here and hit the tops and toward the right-hand side of all these. You may get a couple of little shadows crawling up the sides, but not very much. Just remember, like I showed you on that one little drawing, the light comes from here, so the bottom will be in shadow, and this right side will be in shadow. It's just that we're not seeing very much of the right side. So as a guide, you need to know all of these things so you can guide the watercolor. It's like you call those mushers, those people that mush dogs, and the dogs just want to go, 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 go. They just want to go. So a good guide knows how to guide them and let them go and then reel them in at certain times, and that's exactly what you do. I'm just making this edge over here a little darker. As things dry, you'll probably need to reinforce things. So I have a hard edge here again. I'm just going to add water to this edge and blend it in. It just is this gorgeous little watercolor thing. Here too, I could have put in more. Oops, almost dipped it in my coffee. All right. Of course, that would probably work. Yeah, the coffee is more of a burnt sienna color.
Be very dirty water.
Yeah. So on this one, now you'll probably want some on the left side and the bottom, like that. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of water up here and let the water do its thing. You get these beautiful, look at these beautiful marks happening now. Wow. And they'll keep working. You think they're finished now, and then you look back at it in half an hour and you've just got watermarks everywhere.
Rob, did you wet your clouds before you put in the dark underside?
You know, sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll put in a dark and then I'll wet it.
Mhm.
But typically I'll wet it first. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure. All right. Okay. We've got quite a blue gray in the background, these on these background mountains. Kind of violet too. You're going to make ultramarine blue and then add a little magenta to it. And see where this takes me. I'm just gonna, it's funny, we have some foreground mountains that are in shadow and some background ones that are in light. That'll be a lot of fun. So I think I'm gonna go in some of these mountains here. Little strips of, maybe little strips of light on these mountains. Occasionally I'll have a little stroke like that, and sometimes that can be a really nice little strip of light. Now these are going to be really hard edged, so I will come back with a little bit of water along the edge there and just soften that edge. And then I'm going to come back here. Little strips of light. I give myself this kind of opportunity here to play around. I don't 100% know what I'm doing. I don't know exactly how my light's going to set up. Some people don't like that and they need a plan for everything. That's really up to you.
Rob, what colors do you have on your brush right now?
That's just violet. I used ultramarine blue and magenta to make that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's interesting because you're really consistently ending up with like tertiary colors that are going to reduce the saturation in the back and reduce the value. Just like you just do that automatically with whatever you pick all the time. Because I always have stuff that's too vivid in the back. So that now it's starting to make sense.
The nice thing is though, if you are too vivid in the back, what you can do is just let it dry and then glaze over a complementary color and you will get a gray.
And then it'll reduce the value. Yeah, I mean, it's really nice to know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I mean, by the way, my color here, it's a pretty good magenta. I should say like a blue violet here. I think the camera doesn't 100% pick that up. Let me see if I can zoom in on that a little bit more. The camera's, yeah, I'm looking at that too. It looks pretty gray. It's weird too. It's just the way it is. I certainly could have put more contrast between my sky and my clouds. I'm looking at that now. On the other hand, I kind of like it. Let's see. Oh, I like that. That's just fine. That's me complaining again. Okay. Okay.
A little bit ago, did you make a comment, you're not sure how your lights are going to look? Or did I misunderstand you?
Oh, I think I was just saying that I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing here. I'm making my own little light patterns on the mountain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I give myself that opportunity. I could have worked that out completely. But see, now we have some mountains way off into the background. Way back here. I don't want them to be as dark as my foreground mountains here, so I'm going to go ahead. They could have light on them. They might not. I'll leave that up to you. Maybe there I'll just not have any. And I do make that a little bit grayer and a little bit lighter than this color in the foreground. You can gray that color by just adding a touch of complementary color. So the blue violet would be a yellow orange. A little bit of yellow orange to that color will gray it. If you think it's a crutch to use black, usually it ends up looking, we call it dead color. The color just looks dead. Even grays, or your grays when you use black, it's possible to pull it off though, but I would stay away from it. Unless you feel real confident in it, then go ahead. Because you can add like black and cat red and get a gorgeous, like ruddy color. But maybe we'll do one where I do use black. I'll show you. You can really deaden your color. Now what I'm doing here is putting a little bit of light on, a little bit of color in my lights, my little light strips over the front here. Much lighter. But just get this feeling of light hitting there. Now, I used kind of the reverse of this. I just took a lot more orange into my blue, and I took out all the, like 80% of the color. To lighten it up, you just got to thin it out and then add, so it's orange and blue in the light, okay? I'm using cad red, cad yellow, and ultramarine blue in this light here. So it gives me kind of an orangey light and a blue violet shadow. Isn't it funny? See, I'm using exactly the same colors, but I'm using them in different amounts. On the shadow, I add more blue violet to it. On the light, I add more orange to it. And of course, I thin it out so it becomes lighter. Sometimes I say adding white, and that really confuses people. But by thinning it out, you are adding white. You're adding the white of the page. It's really weird. Okay, let's see what we got here. We've got this big hill. Going back to 380 here. We've got this big, beautiful hill, and it's got a little strip of light on it too. This hill gets more. Again, I'm using red, yellow, and blue again. Red, yellow, blue in different amounts. Try to come up with something kind of brownish.
Dark brown, medium brown.
You know, I have that sort of brown back there. I'll add little flicks of other colors to it here and there. I just touch a little something greenish in there. The key is you just don't want it to be really a saturated color or it'll jump forward. I think I can use a little bit more blue in that color too. I'm going to leave that little strip of light right there. Just leave it white for now. There's a whole lot more land way over here. Get right over. See, my strokes are extremely horizontal. Reason being, you might get little gaps and little striations and everything way back there because you know you're near the horizon. It will look horizontal. Everything lays down really flat and horizontal back there. Ooh, I heard the watercolor noise. Must be Katie. It's the noise. I just took some of these browns and just continued them into the lamp because there's so much shadow over all this. I'm going to switch back to 347 because I want to do that water. We'll put it back in. We're getting a lot of blues and grays. And here's what's interesting about the water. The water isn't reflecting all this dark stuff up here. Not from the direction you're looking at it. It's really, because you got to figure that your eye is coming in, looking at this, and then probably reflecting stuff way off over here and here. That's why the water looks so light as compared to how dark the sky is way up in here. Because it's not reflecting this stuff up. To reflect this stuff up here, your water would have to come way down here. It's weird. So what you do with the water, if you want to see what it's reflecting, you just take it like this and go, it's just reflecting what's here. It's only reflecting maybe that much sky, maybe a touch more, but yeah. So let's take some of that sky color. There's definitely some cloud color in it too. I'm gonna make a note that it's lighter. And see the dry brush thing? See what I'm doing with the dry brush? Let's do some of that dry brushing like that. Just dry brush it in there. Go right over to your drawing. See how fast that is? Watercolor. And you can leave some of that dry brushing in there if you like. I love it. It looks kind of glistening. And then while it's wet, what you can do, if you want some of those little vertical reflections in there, you can just take your paper towel and go like this. See? See? You don't have to make the noise, but it helps. I don't know why I do those noises. It's bizarre. For some reason, I always have to do that. And maybe if they look too streaky, what you could do is just take your brush and go right back over them, kind of dry brush right back over them. You break that up. Maybe there's a touch more blue in there. Must be George. I hear those birds.
I didn't realize I wasn't on mute.
Are they right in your backyard?
No, they're across the street.
Wow.
Yeah, but I have the window in the den.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm muting.
Okay.
Well, what color did you use for your kind of gray water?
I use red, yellow, and blue with a lot more blue in it. As you can see, you'll hear other landscape painters say, use olive green with burnt sienna and all these. We're making all those colors. Red, yellow, and blue in different amounts gives you all those colors. So let's say, for instance, if you want a yellow ochre, you take red, yellow, and blue and add mostly yellow to it, and you'll have a yellow ochre. Do the same thing. You want a burnt sienna, same thing, just add more red to it. If you want like an olive color, you just take red, yellow, and blue and add more yellow and blue. You'll have an olive. Now the funny thing is people will say, well, that's not olive. And then you'll go, oh, okay, what is olive? And you show them every brand name of olive, because everybody's brand name of olive is a different color. Hilarious. You know, people have it fixed in their head what a certain color is. And they don't do this for a living. After a while, it's so weird to name colors. I come up with olive-y things all the time, but I've never, I think it's good to give it a kind of a name. At least people know what you're talking about, but like even burnt sienna, which is a really common color, just buy burnt sienna in a few different brand names and you'll notice, wow, they're very different. And you might prefer one over the other. And that's what happens. People start preferring one over the other, and then you're wrong and they're right. Okay. I'm going to do I want to paint this sort of shadow. What we got here? I'm sorry, I'm going to paint this light land behind the trees. Because I just went from land to water to land. I mean, we are looking over many miles. I have no idea how many miles that is. But again, red, yellow, and blue. In this case, it came out with this sort of greenish color. So the red, yellow, and blue, and then add more yellow and blue. And of course, thin out to get your value. Thinning the color out is the same as adding white. Now, I'm not going to paint up and around these bushes. I'm going to paint right over these bushes. Why is that? Because a lot of the same colors are in the bushes and it won't matter. You'll get really, you won't get all these gaps. It's something more complete. You certainly could paint around all the bushes and that'd be just fine. Again, I'm going to use water along the edge here just to soften this edge. And make it look like the land is just sort of blending right into the water, which is what it does out there. Such a long, you know, the water just doesn't just come up to some ledge, you know, it just goes this long, flat valley. And I'm seeing little reds in there and things. You certainly could pull anything you like in there. Little strips of red, reddish orange things happening in there, possibly. Just break everything up. So this is what I do. So I tend to work ahead of myself, and then I'll go back, like for this little strip of light, I'll go back and hit that now because it's dry. I was waiting for that because if I didn't wait for it to dry, if I put this on there, it would just melt right into the other colors. And I do have a fairly hard edge here. If I wanted to soften that, I can just work on this edge a little bit like this. Just tickle the edge. That doesn't work. Throw it out and start another one. No. Take, I've used my fingernail on them. Yeah, that worked. Just to, yeah, soften up that edge. Yeah, that's fine. There's lots of different ways to do it. You could use a bristle brush. That's kind of a bright light on there, but it's a nice thing about watercolor. You can always just come back and glaze it down. I think it got kind of a hard edge here, so I'm gonna just take a little water to this edge here. Soften that. What do we decide to do now? Since I'm on this, certainly could do anything we want, but I'm gonna go ahead and just wet. I'm just taking water here. I mean, my water happens to have a little bit of color in it, but it's okay because I'm gonna go right over it. Using dirty water. This is the land right behind my bushes. And I'm gonna add some of that sagey green. This is got some Prussian in this color. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow in that color too, just to get it to come forward. Yeah, like that. Get it right into my bushes here. You know what you could do? Right around the edge of the bushes, just take a little bit of water. That gives us a nice soft edge. Getting a little bit of a line there created by the paint. No problem. You just pick it up if you like, or just leave it. It'll look like a little line of bushes. It's so funny how a lot of the really natural looking marks you make end up representing something. Didn't even intend that. I like that Prussian blue in the foreground. I'm going to punch that a little bit. More saturation. I think I'm going to throw a little magenta into that color too. It'll gray it a little bit. A little bit darker. Hit a little bit of blue in there too. Are you getting the signal there? You can put almost anything you want in there. Let it. The rule is if the value is right, you can put almost anything you want in there. What's there isn't always as amazing as you'd like it to be. But I do like to tag a little bit of, a little bit yellow up in the foreground. Just throwing little bits. Ooh, lush color. And just Just softening the edge with it with a little water. You know, might as well put those in now. Yeah, we have those yellowy flowers on the top, so I'm gonna dig into some lemon yellow and really smack some tops of those yellows up in the foreground. Just smack them and let's see what happens. I think if they ooze out into all this color, I just don't care. I think it'll be great. Yellow stuff on the tops. Ooh, and it gets kind of sienna as it goes down. So again, red, yellow, and blue, add a bunch of red. You see how I could do this whole painting with just red, yellow, and blue, right? I use different red, yellows, and blues. But you know, my basic palette, I have 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 blues. So I really do it with red, yellow, and blue.
I was gonna say, Rob, I think you do, red, yellow, and blue.
Yes, I do, red, yellow, and blue. That's kind of green in there, and I like some sienna in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and just, all I'm doing is throwing more red into it. But experiment with your different red, yellows, and blues. Sometimes just cad red, cad yellow, cad blue. Did I say cad blue? And ultramarine blue will be not interesting enough. So like right here, I'm gonna throw myself some magenta in there. Look what that did. Wow, that zapped it down in the base. Now, as it mixes with the other colors, it'll just turn sienna. Like, isn't this just like a orchestration of color? I'm getting all this wet into wet look on the bottom. I really want it dark on the bottom, so I'm just gonna hit some blues down there. I hit both blues. The ultramarine and and that kicks it up in the foreground a little bit. If you want a little light twig, see what I did with my fingernail? You can throw a couple little white twigs. I would be a little sparing with those, or the thing will look kind of hairy. You have all these little, just a couple. We'll see how that dries up. They got some light gray twigs in there too. Those are nice. I wonder if I could pull a couple of them off. What I'm doing here now is with my brush, just pulling some little light areas on off to the right scape, representing some of those light twigs in there. Kind of a sagey color too. They're really great. Even though you see me throwing in this branch right here, I throw that in there. I know the wet into wet color is just going to go, but you know what? It looks great. And they're wet. Throw in a couple of branches, you know, like this. And then if you need to come back and clean things up later, give it a little bit more of a hard edge, do it. They're everywhere, these twigs. Could you do the same thing with white? You could use white. Now I'm using a dry brush. Let's see if this sucks it off here. No, I guess it wasn't wet enough back there. Yeah, it's kind of wet. And that's what it does. It pulls up the paint. So but I can have some little white twigs in here. Not good enough. That's good enough. In fact, sometimes that's all you need. I like it really vague like that. And watercolor just gives you this impression without being extremely specific. And maybe I'll come back and articulate later. Oftentimes I just leave it. This demo is going on for a while, isn't it? Give you guys some time. I'm going to put in my tree line here in the foreground, and that's really kind of the star of the show, shall we say, or the main event. Pretty dark. So you can make a really nice dark green with Prussian blue and any yellow, really. That would give you a nice dark green, but I would suggest adding something a little bit in the red family to that green, and you'll see you'll get a nice natural green. Just remember, I mean, trees without any red in them, they don't look natural. You can throw some magenta in there. Really nice. All right, so I'm just gonna start off my first one here. And then kind of, all I'm doing is just taking little dry brush strokes out to the side. Leave little gaps. Like that. Good enough. You might want to start off with a little stem like I did. That can really work. And there's other stuff back here. Just using the side of my brush. And dry brush, giving yourself lots of little opportunities, kind of light coming through. I love it when the light comes through the brush. So you can always come back and paint over some of these little light areas. I just like to leave a lot of light coming through. And I'll do the skinny one here. Just pull up some. Do it backwards too. You can go downward. Lots of light coming in from behind the trees. That's what gives them that shock value. And if it gets too scattered or whatever, then just go ahead and close them up a little bit. If you started off too dark, then it's really hard to go back. And mine's registering really dark on the, I'm looking at the video. Mine's not nearly that dark. And most time, cameras will tend to over contrasting. This isn't as contrasty as I'm looking at up there. Come back and have this little bush here. Just dry brushing. Lots of little gaps. Lots of fuzzy edges. Adding a little bit of red. My greens. Always. This is like a baby tree or something. Couple little guys way off here. I don't want them to be as dark as these, so I'm gonna add a touch of water. And it's just wonderful little in the land way back there, you see little connections and little bushes and tree lines, and I don't know what they are. They're really far away. Probably just bushes along the edge of a canal or something, but you may get little better color here. Little sort of connections like that. You occasionally might get little trees back there, just barely see them. Might be like 2 miles away. Even under your trees in the foreground here, you might have some shadows, and they're pretty dark. I would just throw in some kind of shadow. I'm using just blue, ultramarine blue on there. What that does, it kind of grounds everything. Then what I do is I use water around the edges. Just water. That keeps it from being too hard of an edge. In this case, I don't have an extreme light source on them, so they won't have a hard edge. My land up here they put in the foreground really did dry quite a bit lighter. Fill it with the back of my finger. I'm thinking maybe I'm gonna be a little brave here. I'm gonna just use blue because, and this is ultramarine blue. I'm just using blue because I have all this color under here already. Mine's pretty dry. I wouldn't do this unless yours was dry. I'm gonna take a glaze. I'm just gonna glaze down some of this color. See? Just gonna rose it in. And if you want to, you see these little tags of light here, you can leave little light patches occasionally. I'm gonna pull this right up behind my little rosies, little flowers or whatever they are. Just think I need a little bit more shade in there. And the blue will make it feel more shadowish, I think. It's my thinking. Most people you might be inclined anyway to put it in gray because that's what the camera does. You know, reality is gray, but I'm getting plenty of gray in this painting. I want to get as much color as I like. Yeah, little shots of light in there can be kind of neat. Sometimes if you want a little bit more light in there, you can just take your rag and go like this. Like that. See, it's just a little bit lighter. Because you know that, who knows that the light coming from clouds can be very sporadic. I'm just taking this blue behind my little flowers, and they call this negative painting. So I'm taking the background and shaping my little foreground bushes and flowers with that. Just the tip of my brush, kind of bringing it in. Find little. So instead of adding the bush positively, we're subtracting it with the background negatively, like this. So fun. Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna put my shadow back in there a little bit more and dissolve that hard edge. You know, I'm seeing little bushes and shrubs in this area, in this middle area too. So you certainly could just sort of kick a few of those up in there. And if you look at that little field, the little foreground field, if you'll notice all of those little shrubs and little shadows lay down in a horizontal manner. And then I just flick it up. So I start my stroke off horizontal and then I just flick up, flick, flick, flick. So go with the lay of the land always. Really, because I have my flowers up here with some dark behind them, they're popping more. And so this turned out to be more of a colorful painting than I expected. I get that all the time when I paint. I love it when a painting just gives me something that I didn't expect. I liked it. Thanks.
It's really pretty.
More of the, thank you very much. The saturation in the foreground is why I smacked those yellows so hard. Now, if you wanted to play those down and play up your tree line here, you certainly could. I would let that all dry and then take a glaze over all this. You'll still have some foreground. I'm just going to leave mine. I think it's fine. But that's another option. There's all kinds of options. I mean, we could come back here. You know, I don't know if you know this or not, but sometimes the clouds will cast shadows right on the water, and you'll get little shadows on the water. You certainly, those are really fun. And when I do, you see what happened with, I put this little glistening thing right here behind these little trees. When you get if you were to put a shadow on the water, what a lot of people will do is, you know, they don't want to paint over anything, so they'll just paint right up to something. It always looks funny. So if you're going to paint a shadow on the water, like I'll just do one right now. I might talk about it. So I could just pretend I have a shadow on the water that's kind of going like this. Like that. Little moves like that can be really nice. They don't have to be extremely dramatic. But see, I paint it right through, maybe even over here a little bit more. That's always an option. It might not actually be on the water we were looking at on the other piece. Sure could be. But they do it all the time. Well, I think that added something to it, yeah. See, I looked away from it for a second, then I looked at it again and I saw something different. I'll put one over here too. That's why it's so important to get up away from your work, look at something else for a while, maybe go get a drink of water, and then come back to it and just ask yourself right away, what stands out? What do you like? What don't you like? Don't only be critical, also, you know, be happy about the parts that are really working. The thing is just remember, when you're learning, those mistakes are really important. That's why it's important to have that Hector attitude, where you get in there and you just take chances. You just take chances because you got to get in there. What happens? You screw things up and you got to fix it. And then the learning is all in the fixing. So important. I'm just trying to dissolve this back edge right here. And you can just go on and on. I mean, there's little strips of shadow. Just remember, when you're putting a shadow in, it usually looks better when you take it behind something like this. And if you were to put it in an area and then isolate it all by itself, that hardly ever happens. Almost always you have overlapping. So I tend to want to always overlap everything. Okay, guys. We have a little time. I'll meet you back here at 12:30 or 12:15, right? That's the time, right? It's 12:15.
Okay. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And I will. We'll do the crit at 12:15.
Okay, see you then.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
for those of you, I think Bendy's new. I don't know if anyone else is new, but you know, you just take a photograph of your work and you know, try to make sure it's rotated properly so I can see it. If it's, you know, if your piece is vertical or whatever, maybe just rotate it and then stamp it. And then we'll do the crit.
Hi. Hi, Kitty. Hi, baby. Hi, Kitty. Hi. Hi, Kitty. Hi, Kitty. Hi, baby.
Amy, you might want to mute.
Oh, sorry. I thought I had.